Hello everybody and welcome back to the third biannual WZ Sports Day competition. This time we headed out to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where we're going to see 4 teams fight it out for the WZ Sports Day Championship. And in this introductory video, I'm going to be showing you exactly what's going to be happening in this competition, as well as what players you're going to see out there competing on the field. So without further ado, let's get into the format of this competition. We're going to be seeing a similar format this time around to that of the Atlanta one, however there are some significant differences. The team construction will be more or less the same as Atlanta. 4 teams of 3 or 4 people depending on where your pick is. We have 15 players, so one team will have 3, and those teams will be determined via a snake draft. The main difference between this format and the one from last summer in Atlanta is that this time we decided to do a round-robin format. So rather than brackets decided by RNG, this time each team will play each team in every sport. There's 5 sports. You'll be seeing soccer, wiffle ball, kickball, basketball, and volleyball in that order. Some of the sports are merged, which means that teams will combine with other teams. But in the round-robin format, that means you'll be playing with each possible team combination. Each team plays 15 games in total, and the team with the best record at the end of the event wins. Here's a look at the talent pool for the draft this time around. We've got 15 players here. The top row of 4 are the captains. That's going to be King, Doobie, Howler, and Anks. This time, instead of seeding pick order, we seeded pick priority order. So this was the order in which captains got to select which pick slot they want. The pick priority order went Anks, Doobie, King, Howler in that order. So as you can see, Anks selected 4th pick with first priority. He wanted those wraparound picks. Doobie then opted for the 2nd pick, and King went with first pick. Then obviously that leaves Howler with the 3rd pick. So with that settled, let's get started with a deep dive into our 4 captains, which will then be followed up with the draft. Hey guys, TK here. It is currently 4:24 a.m. on July 19th. The meetup is tomorrow. I'm just cutting in here to let you know that this time around, I did the pregame analysis commentary before the Sports Day event, so you're going to get really authentic speculation and analysis on these players because the event hasn't been played yet when I'm recording this. Last time around it was all done in post, so that means I could end up being hilariously wrong about some of these things. We'll have to see. The first captain is going to be King. He's been here for every sports day so far, and this one is no exception. He will be the captain of the orange team in this event. I'll say what I said last time about him. He's an all-around type player. His numbers don't really jump off the page for any one sport in particular, but as you can see, he's just kind of all over the board as a middle to high-end type player, someone who's definitely going to be a solid foundation for his team. And having the first overall pick in the draft, he's really going to be able to complement himself by drafting a superstar type player. Having King and someone like that as your team's 1-2 is going to be scary for sure. Looking at this, his strongest points seem to be kickball and wiffle pitching, and also some pretty solid volleyball numbers to boot. But it is also important to preface these player profiles. There are a lot of things that the stats don't tell you, and some players have a lot of value that isn't tracked in the stats. And I'd say that applies to King to a certain degree. He definitely has a lot of sports IQ. He knows what he's doing in all of these sports, even if in some cases it doesn't completely show in the numbers. It'll be interesting to see what kind of team he builds around himself. The second captain in this event is going to be Doobie, captaining the white team. He made his debut in the Phoenix Sports Day, where he was a part of the winning team in black team. It means he's 1-0 and he'll be looking to keep up that perfect streak this time as well. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I would say that Doobie's a pretty solid all-arounder like King is. Just solid middle-of-the-pack hitting stats in both wiffle and kickball, and then in soccer and volleyball, I think one thing that has to be mentioned is his elite supportive play. In Phoenix Soccer, he collected 2 assists, which puts him in a tie for the all-time lead in that category, despite only playing one of the 2 sports days. So he was really helping out his team on offense. And in volleyball, he played really good backline, was having some really solid receives, helping his team get the ball back over to the other side, which honestly was huge in that metagame. I think his biggest point of concern is definitely basketball, but even in basketball, I think he was playing some good defense. But if he's able to draft a couple good basketball players, he would be a great third to that lineup where he can focus on playing defense and using his athleticism to assist his teammates on the court. Getting the third pick in the draft, it's going to be Haller, captaining the red team. A noted sports day veteran, he's coming off his first sports day win in Phoenix, where he was easily one of the most valuable players in the entire event. He had a great showing there. After what he would definitely consider a disappointing performance in Atlanta, he was able to bounce back strong, and now he has really shown himself to be a force. That's why he was given the last priority in selecting his pick. Looking at these stat lines, you can really just see the difference between Atlanta and Phoenix night and day, and he's accrued some impressive career stat lines as a result. Not only that, but he also, like Doobie, has a reputation of some great defense and supportive play in all these different sports. Going by the pick priority order, third pick was determined to be the worst pick in this draft, so it'll be up to Haller to strategically draft a team that he thinks will give him the best shot to win with that third pick. The last captain we'll be talking about here is Anks, who selected the fourth pick with first priority, so this was the pick he wanted more than anything else. He will be the captain of the brown team. If I'm being honest here, Anks historically has struggled in these events, but there was a notable improvement, in my opinion, from Atlanta to Phoenix, and if we continue to see that uptrend, then Anks could end up being a force in this event. I still would say that wiffle and basketball are the biggest weak points until I see otherwise, but he's a solid contributor in soccer and kickball for sure. Unfortunately, those are the two merged sports, which does lower that value a bit. But you know what? Anks knows his weaknesses and he's going to try to complement them with his draft picks. He's going to be able to build his whole team all at once, because he will get picks 4 and 5 in the draft and then he's done. That's his whole team. So you can see why he took that fourth pick. He values those wraparound picks. And we're going to see if Anks can continue that improvement as he's looking for his first sports day win.
Ladies and gentlemen, first overall pick, Wally.
Wally's back, and he will be joining the orange team as King has opted to select him with the first overall pick. It's the second sports day that Wally has played in, and the second straight time he's been selected with the first overall pick, so you can tell he is very highly regarded in WZ. In Atlanta, he was part of the red team, which finished in first place, and he was a big part of that. You can see a lot of numbers that jump off the page here. He's excellent in wiffle ball, excellent in basketball, was solid in kickball, and solid in soccer as a goalie too. We have yet to see him in volleyball because he was not at the Phoenix Sports Day where it was introduced. But all in all, this is the expected pick here. You can definitely understand why King made it. I said before when I was talking about King that he could really help himself out with a superstar player to complement his all-around abilities, and Wally is the perfect man for that in my opinion. If we're going to name a concern, it's the age. He's talked about it a lot, and he's said that he's not as limber as he used to be. However, even despite what he may say, he's definitely very athletic. He did run into some injury problems in Atlanta, but nothing that really sidelined him. So we're going to see if he can stay healthy and help contribute to an orange team win this time around.
For second overall pick, after much deliberation, we pick Brawly 05.
I can't see your face.
Yes.
Doobie selects Brawly with the second pick of the draft. He'll be joining the white team. Last time around, Brawly was a captain and given last priority in the pick, so everyone sees Brawly as a big threat and knows the potential he has. With that being said, I think it is fair to say that he underperformed a bit in Atlanta, and he would probably tell you the same thing. Important to follow that up though by saying he absolutely went off in basketball, was definitely the MVP of basketball in Atlanta, no doubt about that. 9 points per game is absolutely insane. We're talking games to 11, folks. 50% threes, and that was on, I believe, 14 attempts. 7 for 14, that's nuts. Where he faltered was the other sports. He got a goal in soccer, puts him at a 4th place tie in the career leaderboards, but the thing is, Brawley is someone who is expected to be extremely good at soccer, so for his standards, that definitely was an underperformance, and if he's able to live up to his potential this time, we could be seeing a whole different beast here. The kickball stats, honestly, you might have to just toss out the window, because in Atlanta, we were playing no homers kickball, and this time around we're planning to implement homers again like we did in Phoenix. Obviously I'm recording this before the event, so it's yet to be seen for sure, but if homers are in play, Brawley definitely showed that he can kick the ball a long way. And the more I talk about this, I'm really starting to talk myself into the idea that Brawley can be an MVP frontrunner in this event. Between him and Wally, I would say he has just about as good of odds. So with that said, he'll be looking to help out Doobie on the white team this time around.
Alright, my first pick of the draft will be Toad Cart 64. How we do this? Hey!
Reunited, and it feels so good. TK rejoins Howler, this time on the red team, after coming off of a commanding victory alongside him on the black team in Phoenix. Also, I'm going to be referring to myself in the third person in these videos like before, so try to bear with me. In Atlanta, TK was the captain of the red team. He was projected to be the worst captain of the 4 captains and therefore got first pick. And with that, he was able to build a really strong team around himself, and they took home first place. Phoenix, he went first overall, picked by Grimace, and this time we're seeing him come in at 3rd. And you know, 3rd might be high. This is a really stacked draft class. We're going to have to see. But you can see why he went as high as 3rd pick looking at these stats. There are definitely some solid numbers here. Like I said with King and Doobie, I think he can be characterized as an all-arounder type of player. The notable strengths looking at this being wiffle ball and volleyball. Wiffle ball on both sides of the ball, pretty solid hitting and pitching. Pretty notable improvements in a lot of categories from Atlanta to Phoenix, but it is also important to consider that Phoenix had a less stacked lineup than Atlanta did. So we're going to have to see how he can adjust to the lineup being a bit stronger like it was before. With that being said, Howler and TK worked really well together in Phoenix, and they're going to have a chance to go for another win here, as TK will try to retain his 100% win rate in Sports Day.
With the 4th pick of the Wally Wogs 2022 draft. Spec.
With the 4th pick of the draft, Anks has elected to go with Spec for his first pick. This is a bit of a gamble here, folks, as Spec is making his Sports Day debut. As you can tell by him being picked this early, he's expected to be a dominating force in this event. Since he's a newcomer, there's really not a lot I can say, but I can say what I think will be his expected strengths and weaknesses based on what we know and what we've heard. His best sport for sure will be basketball, and I would also say that I expect him to be a solid presence in kickball and volleyball. I think his weaknesses will be wiffle ball and soccer, but that of course remains to be seen. This I think is definitely going to go down as the riskiest pick of the draft. Anks could either be getting a steal here, or he could be compromising his event, or perhaps neither. Spec might play exactly to this pick. We'll just have to wait and see.
For the 5th pick of the 2022 Wally Wogs draft. Tucker!
Anks opts to round out his team with Tuck to complete his team of 3. Tuck, making his return from Atlanta, did not participate in the Phoenix Sports Day, but he did take first place with the red team in Atlanta. He's been picked notably higher here than he did in Atlanta, so it looks like the value and expectation of him has gone up. I think Tuck's going to always be really great for your team's morale. He's a spark plug type of player. He's always really positive. And not only that, but he's got really solid athleticism, and he's got a lot of stamina to boot. In Atlanta Wiffle Ball, he was straight up one of the best hitters in the event. There's no way around it. Hit for really good average, as well as some pop with a homer. In the other sports, I do definitely think there are some reasons for concern. Basketball, there were definitely some struggles. And in soccer, he was primarily playing defense, where he played some solid D, but not many contributions on offense there. Kickball, like I said with Brawley, I think you can really just flush it down the toilet because he played in a completely different format of kickball. We don't really know how he's going to do in the newer format. And then volleyball, you know what, I'm going to really say that I think he's going to be one of the best volleyball players in the event. He's got some experience playing volleyball where most of the clan does not. He really likes the sport, and I mean, someone as athletic as him, I definitely can see popping off in volleyball. So you can see why Anks picked him this early. Tuck was definitely one person I was really not sure where he was going to go in this draft. You could have picked him pretty much anywhere and I would have been able to rationalize it. He's really going to bring different values to different teams, and seeing as he was a really solid member of that red team with the Tacoma Championship, he definitely knows how to win, and he's going to see if he can take home another win with his new team.
My next pick, he's got to be really freaked out by now because he is picked way too low. I'm picking Iric.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Anks, where's Anks?
Where the fuck went?
You're fucked. Fix it, fuck.
Edit that out in post.
Coming in surprisingly low here is Iric. Allers opted to take him as his third member of his team with the 6th pick. In Atlanta, Iric was projected as the second best captain behind Brawley, and he got 3rd pick there. And admittedly, his team did struggle a lot. But the question is, how did Iric himself do rather than the team? And I would say, even though that team didn't end up meshing together well, Iric had pretty solid performances himself in several different sports. The headliner for him is of course going to be soccer. Iric has very notable talent in that sport. Pink team went 2-0 in soccer in Atlanta, and he was a huge part of that, of course. Wiffle ball, I mean, you're probably not going to want to put him on the mound from what I'm seeing here, but at the plate, you know, he didn't really hit for average, but he hit a home run. So he's got that power if he can make contact. Kickball, I think Iric, like Brawley, is going to be a really major case of hugely benefiting from the new format, because I think he's really going to be able to put a charge into some balls. Basketball, not great. He's not a big fan of the sport, but with the athleticism and stamina he has, you definitely think he can put on some good defense if nothing else. And then volleyball, I've got nothing. I have no idea how he's going to be in volleyball. We didn't see him in Phoenix, but I think he could definitely be pretty solid. Iric, in my opinion, coming in at 6th pick, may end up being the steal of the draft.
White team, woo! For white team's 2nd pick, he's large, he's always right. He's going to GN. We pick Grimace.
The lunch lady told me I couldn't do it.
Speaking of steals of the draft, coming in at 7th pick, it's going to be Grimace, selected by Doobie for the white team. Grimace really likes those boring colors, huh? That aside, being picked here at 7th pick still is actually an improvement from Atlanta, where he went with the 2nd to last pick in the whole draft, which was obviously proven to be a mistake by how well he performed. Black team, he was a captain, and he was a captain of the winning team at that. So I think Doobie's getting some good value here, and you know what? It's like I said before, Doobie managed to get 2 really solid basketball players around him, and now I would say white team has a really great shot in basketball particularly. As you can see by Grimace's basketball stats, he's been doing a lot of heavy lifting there. And not only that, but he's got some other skill sets you can see around the other categories. Solid soccer goalie, solid wiffle pitching, although small sample sizes, and not too bad at hitting either. He definitely has really good plate discipline and can take a lot of walks. as well as put the bat on the ball. He had a walk-off hit in Game 2 of the Wiffle Ball series in Phoenix. You know, it's like I said before, this is a stacked lineup of players, so when you see a player like Grimace even going this low, it really does exemplify that. And if you're Doobie, you definitely got to be happy with getting Grimace at this pick. But with that 4-man team, we're going to have to see how Doobie and the white team can work around their players' different strengths and weaknesses and utilize Grimace to his fullest potential.
Ladies and gentlemen, with my second selection of the draft, the 8th overall, I select Joseph Rouliard. My apologies. Yeah, did the whole walk up again.
Coming back to King's wraparound picks, he has selected Joseph with the 8th pick for the orange team. And you know what? I feel like he got picked low, and I'm saying this about so many players that I have to be wrong about some of them. But Joseph has been a really solid performer in these events. Coming off a win with Black Team in Phoenix, Joseph is most notable for his wiffle ball pitching abilities. He's not going to allow a lot of hits, he's going to strike out a ton of batters. He has a bit of control issues, but it really hasn't come back to bite him that much. Still has a really nice ERA and a really large sample of innings. And the wiffle hitting's great too. I mean, particularly in Atlanta where he hit 2 home runs, which led the league. Kickball too, you know, in both formats he was pretty much the same. He was really solid in both. Got hits about half the time. Atlanta got the only triple of the event. Phoenix, he had a walk-off homer in kickball. I will say he definitely struggled a bit in volleyball and basketball, so I can't really call Joseph a jack-of-all-trades type. I think he's more of a specialist, but in those sports that he specializes in, he's really solid and a big contributor. I think he's someone who's capable of single-handedly winning you wiffle ball, and just for that, you're getting a ton of value. Like I said for Grimace though, I think the biggest concern for Joseph is the stamina. Has shown some stamina problems in the past events, particularly Phoenix in my opinion, due to the more grueling schedule. With that said, I think you absolutely can't go wrong with Joseph at pick 8. He's someone I think you could justify picking much earlier in this draft.
Alright, with the 9th overall pick, number 23 for a reason, Casper Renos.
Sunni New Paltz.
Next up, rounding out the orange team for King, it's going to be Casper, and this is another new player making his debut. So again, not a lot to go off of here, but I think the projected strengths and weaknesses are actually very similar to what I said for Spec earlier. I'm expecting his strengths to be basketball and kickball, and I'm expecting his weaknesses to be wiffle ball and soccer. And for volleyball for Casper, I'm really not sure. I think for Casper, the difference between him and Spec is that Casper is going to have more stamina issues than Spec does, because Spec has been more active and more conditioned to this type of an event than Casper is. Although Casper does have a sports background, but I believe he's been doing nothing of the sort as of recent, so we'll have to see how he's able to perform in this environment.
For his final pick, the absolute most sleeper pick, we pick Nathan.
The 10th pick of the draft is going to be Nathan, finishing up the white team. Nathan's seeing a big drop in his pick here when compared to Atlanta, where he went 6th overall and competed on the pink team. And I think he's kind of getting a bad rap here. Again, when I say he got picked low for every person, it starts to lose some credibility. But I will say that Nathan has a lot of skills that are really not measured in these stats. And even then, the stats certainly aren't bad overall when you look at these. He was solid in soccer and kickball, and he could even pitch a little in wiffle ball, which is something that kind of was a surprise to me when we were playing there. I wasn't expecting him to be able to pitch like he could. Ended up giving some runs, sure, but he was striking batters out. He had solid control. after he settled in. And he's a lefty, so you're giving the hitters a different look since everyone else is a righty. Definitely expect some struggles in basketball, although I will say he definitely plays some solid defense. He's really athletic, he's going to be all over the court, and that's going to be the case in other sports too. So you know what, Nathan may be coming off of a down event in Atlanta, but I definitely would have him circled as a big bounce back candidate for this event.
Alright, for the final pick of the draft, I'll be selecting B69. Let's go, Reed. Let's go. Right over there, bud. Take it. Oh wait, yep, we're good.
And finally, with the last pick of the event, Howler will get Knee onto the red team. Another player making his Sports Day debut. This one makes more sense, a little bit like Doobie from last event, where there's just no knowledge. And that's even more so the case this time around. We had at least seen Doobie a little bit in sports at previous meetups, but with Knee, this is his first time even going to a WZ meetup, so we don't really know what we're going to get other than what we've been told. Knee has said that he doesn't have a sports background, and in this kind of a lineup where almost everyone else does, that is certainly a cause for concern. It also seems like stamina could be an issue, although that's of course the case with around half the lineup. I think I would say wiffle ball hitting is definitely something that in my mind I can just see him being good at. We're going to have to see if that's right or not. As well as basketball. I think he could just play some stalwart defense on basketball and could potentially be a make or break kind of addition to a red team that kind of lacks the firepower in basketball that the other teams have. Because of the stamina issues that he's expecting to have, I think I would primarily put soccer and volleyball as the places I'm expecting him to struggle. And kickball I'm not too sure. Maybe he'll be able to put a charge into one, but we'll have to see how the base running and fielding holds up. Obviously, whenever a player is making their Sports Day debut at last pick, they have a big chance to really flip the script and make a name for themselves, so Knee will be looking to do that in this event.
So how do you feel about your team? Just in general thoughts. How do you feel about your team? Just general thoughts about the white team in this event. So how do you feel about your team in general in this event? How do you feel about your team in this event? Just general thoughts about your team.
I'm very happy with my team. I feel like we're fairly well-rounded and got some strengths, not a whole lot of weaknesses, so I like our chances.
To be honest, all around, I pretty much got all the picks I wanted, so I'm very satisfied with it.
I think we lost.
I think my team is fantastic.
I think the only thing I wouldn't be so off was volley for volley, but honestly, I almost prefer this.
Care to elaborate on
We're trash.
My whole goal was getting Spec and Tuck, actually. So,
that? You had that plan.
I had that plan from the very start, actually.
But I'm happy with my team. Like, I like my team.
Question 2. What do you think is your team's best sport in this event?
I would say soccer.
It might be volleyball.
Basketball or kickball?
Probably soccer.
Next question, getting the inverse of that. What is your team's worst sport?
I would say it's either wiffle or basket.
I think our worst sport might be soccer.
Maybe wiffle.
Definitely basketball.
Question number 4. Who would you say is the most underrated player in the event?
Without a doubt, Nathan.
I would obviously say Iric.
I'm gonna go with Nathan.
I'm gonna say Iric, because I didn't fucking pick him.
Honestly, I am fucking shocked that he wasn't picked any sooner than that. Like,
But at the same time, I don't know if he's underrated, because I feel like people still think he's like really nuts. But based on like the statistics, he's technically underrated. I feel like because he's picked so low.
Which team would you say is the biggest threat to your team in the Sports Day event?
I'd say undoubtedly orange team.
I think it's King's team. King Wally, yeah.
I would say orange team definitely.
We're gonna go with the white team.
Next question would be, what would you say is your team's ceiling and floor?
I think our ceiling is a dub.
I mean, I think we can win the whole thing for sure.
At first, like all week, I would say 4th and 4th.
No, 1 and 4. That's not even close. It's easily 1 and 4.
I think our floor is like probably like a second or third.
I think maybe the lowest we rank is third.
But I actually think our ceiling is first and our floor is fourth. I feel like we're the most like all over the board team in the whole
Most
thing.
unpredictable team.
Yeah.
I mean, we'd have to choke really, really hard, I think, to get last.
Which team do you think has the best jersey, not including your own?
I'm gonna go with the white team.
I'm pretty sure it's orange. I think orange has the best jersey by a lot. They just won. They won everything.
They won everything.
Yeah, GH.
I kind of like UPS, the brown.
The brown team?
I honestly like the brown team. That was a good choice.
I really like the white team jersey because it has pink in it. It's my favorite color.
While white can sometimes be very boring, I think the other colors to go with it turned out great.
Alright, good luck in the sports day event.
Thank you.
Hopefully we have a good sports day event. And good luck in the sports day
Yes,
event. I
I
hope
need
you
to
win
chug
by a
this.
lot.
I hope we do too by a lot.
Thank you so much.
Good luck in the sports day event.
Thank you.
So that's going to do it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Just leaving you with the graphic showing all the final teams. Next time, we'll kick off the event with the first sport, which will be soccer. Hope to see you all there.